Chapter 2 is titled by Srila Prabhupada as Divinity and Divine Service. So the previous chapter, Goswami was asked by the Shaunakadi Rishis, what is the ultimate good and essence of all scriptures? Again, devotional service and the Supreme Lord. So that's why Srila Prabhupada has titled this chapter as Divinity and Divine Service. That these are the two things that is the essence of all the processes and the ultimate good for everybody. We will see in this chapter how bhakti is the ultimate process. Between verses 6 and 22, Suta Goswami will establish bhakti as the ultimate process or abhideya to satisfy the soul. And he also explains that how bhakti is a potent process for both beginners and advanced practitioners. To begin bhakti, the actual process of hearing, chanting, and worshipping can be started by anyone. And also between verses 23 and 34, Suta Goswami establishes how the Supreme Lord, Vasudev, is the ultimate object of one's devotion. Big two themes of the chapter. If you go back and read the chapter and feel lost, you can come and check these two themes. There are three items discussed. One is the process, which is bhakti, process that can actually give us perfection, which can be the ultimate good for all. The process by following which everyone in the world can achieve ultimate good or experience the essence of all scriptures. So that process is bhakti. And what is the goal? Prema. And that is the aim. However, we do the process towards an object. That object is Krishna. So these are the three topics that are delineated in this particular chapter. And please note, the first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the sages asked 6 questions, and they will all be answered very briefly in the next 2 chapters. Chapter 2 and chapter 3 of Canto 1 will answer briefly all the 6 questions asked by the sages, but understand that the rest of the Bhagavatam is literally answers to these questions, so which will gradually be unfolding. So there are 34 verses in this particular chapter. Still a short chapter, I would say, but the verses are all very important. We can discuss a lot under each of those sections, but we'll go as much as possible within the given time. So the first 5 verses is where Suta Goswami offers his obeisances, because he is going to now speak. So it's a customary tradition that before one speaks, one offers their obeisances to the Supreme Lord, to one spiritual master. So he does the same thing. And he also appreciates the audience for asking such wonderful questions. And then he begins to answer the questions 1 and 2 of the sages. And it's basically bhakti is the ultimate good and the essence of scriptures. And the third section, somebody may say, oh, if bhakti is the ultimate, because there are many sages sitting there in the audience along with Parikshit Maharaj. So they may take objection. What about Varnashram then? Because Varnashram is also considered a way to please Vishnu. So why are you saying only bhakti? What about Varnashram? So that is what is discussed between 8 to 15. What is the place of Varnashram? And the verses 16 to 22 discusses the process of bhakti. How does that bhakti actually work? And who's the object of bhakti? Unto whom is it practiced? And in the verses 30 to 33, the answer to question 4 is discussed, which is the sages had asked, please explain about the Purusha avatars. How did the pastime of creation is being carried out by the Supreme Lord? So that's why Purusha avatars will be explained. And next, in the last verse of the chapter, purpose of Lord Krishna's appearance. That also they had asked. So that's the third question. What is the reason that the Supreme Lord Vasudeva or Krishna appeared in the womb of Mother Devaki? That was their question. So that will be answered in the last verse of this chapter. So this chapter is going to answer 4 questions of the sages out of the 6 questions they had asked to Suta Goswami. And I'm just elaborating on this particular section 8 to 29, because that is the kind of the lion's share of the chapter. And it carries the main theme of the chapter because it addresses the process and object. What about Varnashram? We'll be discussing that. What is the purpose of Varnashram? And in the course of that, we will also discuss what is absolute truth and how to realize it. And we will be discussing the process of bhakti, in which we will see the flow that Rupa Goswami speaks about, Shraddha to Prema, the various stages in which bhakti progresses. And that we will see right here in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, that how the process of bhakti begins with hearing and grows through the process of hearing and service to devotees like that. So we will see that progression And we will also see how Krishna is the ultimate object of bhakti. I know I'm like going like this. If there is anything, please feel free to stop me. I'm just giving a summary of the chapter. We are going to discuss these things again in detail anyway, immediately. Yes, Mother Shilpi.
Prabhuji, I think you might be going into this detail, but just looking at the first slide which you were sharing, what is the breakdown of the verses? I was just curious, like why Varnashram is coming into picture right
Mm-hmm.
after question 1 and 2 are answered. Like why is he bringing Varnashram into this right now?
We will be surely seeing that is like the big part of the section. So as soon as we complete the first 5 verses, I'll be getting into that topic. Does that work?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. Thank you, Prabhu.
So let's then get into the chapter itself. So here, Suta Goswami is like so happy and like he's so fully satisfied with the perfect question of the sages because he really loves to remember Bhagavatam and speak. So, and here these questions are directly relating to Bhagavatam. So he is extremely pleased. And here in these verses, we will see that even in answering these 6 questions, this book is not separate from Bhagavatam. Many people think Canto 1, Canto 2, and the first few chapters of Canto 3, they're all just introduction. The real Bhagavatam begins after that when Shukdev Goswami is like speaking like that. Though Shukdev Goswami does start speaking in the Canto 2, a lot of people think at least the Canto 1 is not really part of the that discussion. Here we can see Suta Goswami in his heart, who he is offering prayers to. He is offering prayers to Shukadev Goswami. He is not offering prayer to anybody else. Though he had studied from so many sages, we have seen in the first chapter that he had studied from so many different sages and different subject matters. But here he offers prayers only to Shukadeva Goswami. So Suta Goswami is already going to answer all these questions of the sages based on the knowledge that he has received from Srimad Bhagavatam by hearing Shukadeva Goswami. So that's why we see in the text too, the first thing that he does is he is offering obeisance to Shukadeva Goswami. And we all know Shukadeva Goswami is the parrot of Srimati Radharani. Still, that part is not like discussed here. However, he does glorify Shukadeva Goswami of his identity in that particular appearance as son of Vyasadeva. He says how he can enter the hearts of all. The idea is like when he was leaving home, Vyasadeva was running behind him because he just took birth and he immediately left home without any purificatory rituals. Like he wasn't getting a Brahman thread or he wasn't taking any kind of ashram properly. No rituals were performed. Straight. He took birth and he is just walking out. And Vyasadeva is like, oh my son, at least get some purificatory rituals. And he's running behind and calling, oh, now, oh my son. And it's only the trees which echoed back the same thing, oh my son. So the acharyas are saying the trees were saying two things. The trees were actually Shukadeva Goswami entered into the hearts of the trees, and he was saying, oh my son, basically saying in which life, in this life we are father and son, but in the next life we don't know. And also the trees are calling out to Vyasadeva, oh son, wait, he is already very renounced, he is running, he does not need those purificatory rituals, you please wait. So in that way he is saying Shukadeva Goswami entered into the trees and he was speaking to Vyasadeva indirectly. Basically, he is saying, you can even enter into the hearts of trees. Please enter into my heart, Sukadeva Goswami, so that I can answer these questions of the sages. That's the real mode here. You can enter into the hearts of everyone, even the trees. So why not you enter into my heart? I really want to answer these questions for these sages. So please enter into my heart. That is his prayer. And then he is saying that Shukadeva Goswami, actually out of his compassion, that he spoke this confidential essence of the Vedic knowledge. He was completely renounced. He could not have bothered to speak to Parikshit Maharaj. But because he really had a deep compassion, so he churned out he churned the essence of the Vedic literatures and gave it in a very sweet way for the struggling people of this world. So for our sake, Shukadeva Goswami has spoken. So that's why he's praying. Because you have written all these things and you have spoken this essence, that's what I'm trying to repeat. Please bless me so that I can carry forward your mission of trying to help people. So that's what I want to do here by speaking to the sages. Please empower me. So that is the mood of Suta Goswami. And after that, Goswami is speaking, going to recite or offering obeisances to 4 personalities. And we will see why is he offering to these personalities. We all recite that verse. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. So why is he actually praying to these four personalities? It is said every book has four objects. That is the particular object of that particular book, and also the place in which that particular book was spoken, the devata of that place, and also the energy and the author. So who's the author? Who's the author? Like, you may say Srila Vyasadeva is the author of all Vedic literature, so that's why he's taking the name of Vyasadeva. You can say Mother Saraswati, which is also a spiritual counterpart. Still, if you consider the energy of knowledge is Mother Saraswati. But why is he saying Narottam and Naranarayan Rishi? What is the reason for invoking Naranarayan Rishi? Because Srila Vyasadeva wrote Srimad Bhagavatam in Badrikashram, and the deity for Badrikashram is Naranarayan Rishi. So that is why he is invoking Naranarayan Rishi. And who's Narottam? Narottam is actually Sri Krishna. So that is why here, of course, Narayan, the word also refers to the Supreme Lord. Krishna also can be called by the word name Narayan. So Narottamam also here means to Krishna. So he has glorified Bhagavatam basically, not any other literature written by Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva specifically wrote the Bhagavatam in Badrikashram, and Naranarayan Rishi is the residing deity, and Narottam, Krishna, is being described in this particular scripture. So the reason he is reciting all this is very clear that whatever he is going to speak is already Bhagavatam, is not separate from Bhagavatam. It's not that Shukadeva Goswami begins in Canto 2, that's when Bhagavatam begins. No, it's very clear by praying to Shukadeva Goswami, by praying to Vyasadeva, by praying to Naranarayan Rishi and Narayan, and saying Tato Jayam Udirayat. By this, you can be conquering the means of conquest. You can conquer the material energy. So that is why it is said before by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, that is being glorified. All the four objects of the book are glorified. And after the offering his obeisances in 3 verses 2, 3, and 4, now he is actually glorifying the sages, appreciating them because of their wonderful questions that he is able to actually think about Shukadeva Swami and speak Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, Yena. So the sages in chapter 1 asked one particular question ending, Yaya, is how can the soul be satisfied? Here he is saying, Yenatma suprasidati. The soul can be completely satisfied by what? Yat krita Krishna samprashno. Just by asking proper questions, our heart can be satisfied, our life can be successful. So that is why he's saying inquisitiveness has a purpose to exist. But when it is applied properly, Munayaha sadhu prushtoham, by asking proper questions, that can actually bhavadbir lokamangalam, that can actually lead to auspiciousness of the world and in connection with Krishna. The Krishna samprashno. So by asking right questions, which can actually benefit the world, which can benefit oneself, which is in connection with Krishna, just by that, one can actually fully satisfy the self, because it's not just about asking questions. When you ask question, you are also supposed to hear the answers. So question is only one part. It is said if you ask the right questions, you will also eventually get the right answers. And when you hear the right answers, your eagerness, your inquisitiveness will be satisfied, and you will be applying in life. It's all assumed. So that is why the first step is asking right questions itself can fully satisfy the self. So right here, he has started answering the questions, but it's not technically considered as the answer. Even we can, the Acharyas say, even right here, Suta Goswami is saying, just by asking right questions, your heart can be satisfied. Mother Gail.
I'm sorry, Prabhu, but it really wasn't so clear to me why there was some question mark as to whether the first canto should have been first canto or first chapter should
Is
have
part
been.
of Srimad Bhagavatam or not?
Yeah, why was there some doubt about that?
Actually, traditionally, there were people who have told that the Canto 1 is kind of doesn't flow well. There are people who always create controversy. So it's a traditional thing that there were opinions that, oh, first canto is not pretty much Bhagavatam, like straight 10th canto you read, or you read from where Shukadeva Goswami is actually speaking. Where is Shukadeva Goswami speaking from? That's where Bhagavatam begins.
So the criterion on which we determine where Bhagavatam begins is what? And how do we determine?
Some people in their immaturity, they do put across this thing, have this opinion that wherever Shukadeva Goswami speaks, that's what is Bhagavatam. Like, this is all introduction. I'm like, I'll go straight to there.
Oh, so in the opinion of some, Bhagavatam doesn't begin until Shukadeva Goswami
Speaks.
But we contradict that by saying that no, it can begin before that, because why?
Because here, if you see, Vyasadeva in the very beginning of the third verse, 1.1.3, he said, this book is actually spoken by Shukadeva Goswami. He says that in the beginning of the book. This whole book is spoken by Shukadeva Goswami. And here we will see, we just saw in the verses 2 and 3 that Suta Goswami is first praying to his Guru Shukadeva Goswami and answering based on what he is. He's saying, enter my heart and let me answer these questions. And let me share what you have spoken. What did he speak? He spoke only about Shukadeva Goswami is only known for speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. So he's saying, Samsarinam Karunayaha Purana Guhyam. You gave the Purana Guhyam. You gave that topmost Purana. So let me speak that. So what is he going to speak then? He's going to speak Srimad Bhagavatam.
But it is true, though, that there is that section that describes what happened before he spoke. So what about that?
However, all these questions all those things that we see in the Canto 1 is all related to these questions of the sages, for which he is again, what you call, when it is directed towards Srimad Bhagavatam, it's all going to end in who is Shukadeva Goswami, who is Parikshit Maharaj, how did Bhagavatam come up, and this is not separate from the Bhagavatam, right? And here, these particular questions that they have asked, he's going to answer all that from the essence of the Bhagavatam itself. He's going to summarize based on the teachings that Shukadeva Goswami gave. That's what he's going to speak based on that.
So basically, we're saying, therefore, that Bhagavad really means anything that is spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, as well as anything concerning the life of Shukadeva Goswami.
And also the essence that what he spoke, the teachings that he gave, it can all be considered. We also say there is book Bhagavatam and person Bhagavatam. So who's person Bhagavatam? One who carries the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Sundaranand Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, on text 4, it says Uttamam. So that seems to be applied to Naranarayan Rishi from the text. Did you mean that it's indirectly applied to Krishna?
So Narayanam Namaskritya. So Narayanam Namaskritya Narancheva Narottamam. Yeah, I think what you're saying is right. Nara is Nara part of the Rishi. Narottamam is Narayana Rishi. That combination. And Narayan. But in some places, they may say Nara and Narayan. And Narottam can be denoting the Supreme Lord. So how you read the verse can be either you can take the Narottam as the Narayan Rishi, or you can take the initial Narayan as Narayan and Naram Chaiva, and then Narottam as the Supreme Lord. So it's the different acharyas read it differently. So here now we are going to start this particular section where the sages question 1 will be answered by Suta Goswami. And I have put the Sanskrit here in the slide because it is a very important verse. You will see here this verse also ends in the same way. The previous verse also ended 1.2.5. Basically, it's all related to how can the soul be satisfied. And that's what here they had asked in the previous chapter. The sages asked, what is the absolute and ultimate good for all people in general? So here, Suta Goswami is saying it is actually devotional service, because this paradharma, this devotional service is ahaitu, and it does not depend on anything. Ahaituki means it does not need any other qualification other than bhakti itself. The source of bhakti, say for example, for practicing Jnana Yoga, you need to have completed Nishkama Karma Yoga. Without having achieved perfection in Nishkama Karma Yoga, you cannot take up to the process of Jnana Yoga. And also, say if you want to do Ashtanga Yoga, you cannot actually go to practicing Ashtanga Yoga to the forest without having perfected Nishkam Karma Yoga and having engaged in good amount of Jnana Yoga, some amount of idea about the philosophy. And then you go to the forest, you become stable physically, and then you meditate. So you need to know what to meditate on. So you need to have Jnana, and you need to have exhausted all the desires in your heart through the practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga. And from Nishkama Karma Yoga itself, there are qualifications. So in that sense, what is the qualification for practicing bhakti? There is no qualification other than association of devotees. So association of devotee is anga bhakti itself. So bhakti is not dependent on any other process than just bhakti itself. And that is why the word ahaituki is used here. And aprati, we will see, let me go to that verse, I have put it a little later. Apratihata means bhakti is not dependent on anything, and bhakti can be practiced in all circumstances. He says bhakti can be practiced in all places, heavenly planets, hellish planets, earthly planets, all kinds of places by using all the senses, Madhigel.
Yeah, you said that the only thing you need to do to perform devotional service is the association of the devotees, no?
Yes.
I thought you were going to say, yes, the devotees are necessary, otherwise you won't know what to do. But I thought you were going to say the desire to do it. Because even if a person has the association of devotees, if they don't have the desire to do it, they still won't be able to do it.
Yeah,
So
we are going to discuss that between the verses 16 and 22. It's a very important question. And that's what is the subject matter between the verses 16 to 22. Do you mind if we take?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Okay. So here Jiva Goswami is saying that how bhakti can be practiced in all places, and bhakti can be practiced using all the senses, all of the senses of the prior 5 senses, and also by using all kinds of sense objects also, and by using all types of actions. Of course, this is not speaking about grossly immoral or grossly, what do you call? Yeah, grossly immoral actions. In general, he's speaking all types of actions, means all kinds of prescribed duties. Whatever results, that the moral results, the right results that one gets from a prescribed duty, they all can be engaged in bhakti. And he says in all times also bhakti could be practiced. In the beginning of creation, Brahmaji, during the 4 types of dissolution, and also in 4 yugas, bhakti could be practiced at all times, morning, evening, in that way also, and also in all kinds of seasons, bhakti could be practiced, and at all stages of life also. Then he gives the example in the womb, Prahlad Maharaj practiced. As a child, Dhruv Maharaj practiced. In old age, Avadut Brahman realized. Just before death, Ajamil practiced. After death, in heavenly planets, Chitraketu Maharaj practiced. Bali Maharaj continues to practice in the, what do you call, in the subterranean planets. So in this way, no place or stage of life or things are like stop one from practicing bhakti. So that's what is being discussed in this when Jiva Goswami is saying that ahaituki ahata, means here this particular ahaituki, it's not that bhakti has any, what do you call, anything that can, it is not dependent on anything, and it is not stopped by anything. Apratihata, it can be practiced at all times, at all ages, and that is why this bhakti can actually considered as the parodharma, because it is not dependent on anything, and that is why it can be pleasing to the heart. So if there are any questions on this particular verse, you can go back, please sit and read the purport of Srila Prabhupada. And I'm not really going into the depths of the purports and bringing out here for lack of time, both in the session and in my preparation. I'm not able to make slides which brings out the essence of each important purpose. But please go back and read the purpose of this chapter. It's very important. The initial few chapters are like very foundational.
Prabhu, can I ask a question on that previous slide?
Yes. Yes. Sorry, I'm struggling with it.
One slide.
Yes.
So Prabhu, you said that ahaituki is it's not dependent, right?
Yeah.
Not dependent on other things. But I thought that translation focuses that word on unmotivated. Is that not?
Both. Prabhupada says not motivated in the sense of not having any other motivation. Hetu also means cause. Hetu also means motivation. So different acharyas take different thing. Unmotivated and that is the meaning that Srila Prabhupada takes. So when you say ahaituki means unmotivated, when it is of that quality, then it can actually bring out satisfaction of heart. So when devotion is even when practiced with hetu, with ulterior motives, it may not immediately bring out that full satisfaction of the process of bhakti. For us to experience the full glory of the process, then there can be like you say, what is unmotivated? There cannot be any action without some motivation. So unmotivated here means the only motive to please Krishna is the actual motive, no lacking any personal motivation, selfish motivation.
Prabhu, with that, because it ends with this suprasiddhati, right? Satisfaction.
Yes.
That could be some selfish purpose, right? We want to please Krishna so that we feel ultimate satisfaction. It's not completely unmotivated in that sense, no?
Yeah, that's why Prahlad Maharaj says the ultimate selfishness is pleasing Vishnu, because we can never be completely because it's the nature of the self. So pleasing Krishna and as a byproduct feeling happiness is not considered a motivation. Say, for example, if you bring an ice cream to Dhruti and she is very happy and you are happy that she is happy, I'm sorry if I gave the wrong example.
No, that was actually the perfect example. Can you elaborate for? I'm hearing attentively.
Like when we think we can actually offer something to Krishna, and that will make you happy if you had love for the person, because you love Dhriti. When she is happy receiving that ice cream and she is enjoying it, you feel happy. You have not eaten the ice cream. You just brought it for her and she is enjoying it. And by that, seeing her enjoying, you are already satisfied. So that is the nature of love. So the satisfaction that the soul experiences is not that I eat ice cream and I feel satisfaction, but it's just serve my object of my love, and their pleasure satisfies my heart. So that is the kind of satisfaction referred to here.
Thank you, Prabhu. Perfect example.
Here in the verse 7, and Mother Gail.
Yeah, but Prabhu, at the same time, we're coming from this conditioned state, right? Prabhupada was saying that there's motivation for some people to please God because they want to end up happy themselves. At a neophyte stage, is it really so realistic for us to have this completely selfless motivation that, oh no, nothing for me, Krishna, just as long as you're satisfied? Or is that something that we eventually come to? Not necessarily in the beginning, because I don't know, it seemed like a little artificial to say that we would really have that purely selfless, even though that's our goal, but to say that we actually feel like that in the beginning.
Yeah, I think you're already answering. They're speaking about the quality of bhakti that can actually satisfy the self, but it may not start there. It may start incrementally, which we will discuss between the verses 16 and 22. So it does,
which most of us are at, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what the gradual progression of bhajana kriya and anartha nivritti, and gradually we come to this stage. But this is what actually will fully satisfy the heart.
Yes.
That's what they're answering.
Yeah.
Anybody else? So in the verse 1.2.7, Suta Goswami is going to answer the question of the sages that they asked in the previous chapter 1.1.11. So their question was, what is the essence of all scriptures? Is the question by the the sages of Naimisharanya. And here Suta Goswami is answering, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayoja Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahaitukam. That essence of all scriptures is devotional service to the Supreme Lord Vasudev. And what happens? Through that, actually, Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahaitukam. Through that knowledge through that knowledge, detachment both comes just by practicing that process. Because we see in this world, knowledge always does not lead to detachment. People have written, smoking will lead to cancer. People read and understand and open the packet and smoke cigarettes because the knowledge is there, but it does not lead to detachment. But bhakti knowledge is not like that. This bhakti, the knowledge about the Supreme Lord, the knowledge about the practice of bhakti yoga, when we engage in it, gradually it also arises to vairagya. It also leads to gradual detachment. So Janayati Ashu, of course, here Ashu means very quickly. Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadahaitukam. It's a byproduct. Just by practicing bhakti, somebody may think, oh, first you need to gather knowledge and then you can engage in bhakti. No, bhakti is such a process. Just by beginning to chant without having any idea of what it is, eventually we also gather knowledge about Krishna, we develop detachment, we understand the purpose of life, everything comes but just by the beginning of the process of bhakti. And that bhakti also should be offered to Vasudev, who is the Supreme Lord Bhagavan. So then it can actually naturally lead to naturally lead to knowledge and detachment. Chayad ahaitukam, costless knowledge and detachment from the world. Because it has no other cost than bhakti itself. Mother Shilpi?
Yes, Prabhuji, actually, that was my question. What does it mean to have causeless knowledge? I've not heard this word before, causeless knowledge, these two words together.
Yeah.
That
So
means
costless knowledge means, say, for example, when someone, for a practical example, my personal example also, when I started chanting Hare Krishna, I had no idea of anything. I don't even know why I was chanting Hare Krishna. It was a complete random thing. I had absolutely zero reason to chant and zero understanding why to chant or anything like that. I just kept chanting. And then through that process of bhakti itself, then some knowledge came gradually. So costless means it does not have any other cost other than bhakti itself as the cost. So the knowledge that is produced from bhakti, just by the purely by the practice of bhakti. Because if I read Srila Prabhupada books, that is also an anga of bhakti. If I hear from devotees, that is also anga of bhakti. So it does not have karma or jnana, yoga as its source. It has bhakti itself as the source.
So there is a cause which is bhakti. We are calling it causeless because there is no other material
No other cause, yeah.
cause to it.
Because the word to say that one's own cause is again in Sanskrit means hetu means cause, means which has no other cause, self cause. So it's when we translate in English, it just gets a little messy.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Mani Krishna.
Are you able to hear me, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Yeah. So my question is, as you say, bhakti will lead to gyan, but without gyan, can bhakti become a blind faith?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So without knowledge, bhakti can be a blind faith. However, what happens is the nature of bhakti, it does not let us remain ignorant. If it is practiced properly, it does not let us remain ignorant. So for some or other, if we come across the right way of practicing bhakti, and if we are doing it in the like by the association of devotees, even somebody is completely ignorant. Like I like Prabhupada, so I'm just doing. Somebody may there are devotees who just saw there was this person who saw Prabhupada's ring or watch. He thought I'll just steal Prabhupada's watch. And he came there and he interacted with the devotees. He stayed there, took prasad. Eventually, he realized, oh my God, what am I doing? Here is a saintly person. Why would I want to steal his watch? So, and he went and apologized to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada said, have this watch. He actually gave the watch to him. Keep the watch, stay in the temple, continue to do devotional service. So, why I'm saying is, even if it was a blind faith, there is nothing wrong when you put faith in the right thing. When you put faith in the wrong thing blindly, it leads to a problem. But bhakti is so glorious, even if it is, we did not know anything. All we saw was it's a very happy process. They give so much food and it's like dancing and chanting. So I just like it. If they come in without having any other faith or any other knowledge of what it is, still we see what devotion can do to us. Like immediately it brings out all the what you call knowledge from inside just by eating prasad and chanting Hare Krishna. So even if you think it's blind faith, it's still not a problem when it is applied properly. It will lead to knowledge eventually. Does it
Got
make
it.
sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So here they are again simply answers bhakti for everything. In one sense, if you see, Suta Goswami is also doing the same jalebi. In the first verse also he answered bhakti, second verse also he answered bhakti. So Bhagavatam has nothing else other than bhakti. So it's not where if you don't understand anything, all you can understand for sure this much, that he is the answer for all questions. But still, there is a lot of details in there. So now that we have seen the answer to the two questions, as Mother Shilpi had earlierly asked, why are we touching this topic of Varnashram Dharma? Because the essence of scriptures and to make the soul satisfied is all, if it is all bhakti, then we should also all be doing bhakti, right? Then why are we working? Why are we taking care of so many things? Then where does my livelihood and all these things that I do as part of this world, where does it all belong? Is it not meant for the sake of giving perfection to me? So that is one reason that, and also there are different kinds of sages sitting in the audience along with Parikshit Maharaj. And similarly here also, these Shaunaka the Rishis, they are not having, or not all the sages sitting before Suta Goswami is all having the same level of faith and devotion. Some of them are still not fully fixed in their faith and devotion or bhakti. So they have so many other opinions. Oh, the purpose of scriptures is this, and what can lead to perfection is some other processes. And that is why Suta Goswami could understand Varnashram is also in the mind of these sages. So let me just clarify that how Varnashram is not the goal. Rather, bhakti is the goal of even Varnashram Dharma also. So that's why he picks up this topic, because it is in the sage's mind, so that he could read his audience, and that is why he is answering this. And also we can see in general, people may immediately, if you say that, oh, bhakti is the aim or goal of life, then naturally it will come in the heart of a person that, so then what about my work? What about the other things that I'm doing in this world? Is it all useless? So how does it fit into the spiritual life? It's a very natural question, I would say. What do you think, Mother Shilpi?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So
Yeah.
that is the reason that Goswami is picking up this topic, and he's saying life's purpose is to inquire about absolute truth. So then what about my occupational duties? He says occupational duties are very important. And as long as they actually lead to the attraction for hearing about the Lord, then it's perfect. There is no problem in doing them as long as it leads to attraction for the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, what's the purpose? You don't gain anything at the end. Again, the same cycle of birth and death. And he says that is why our only purpose of livelihood is to please the Supreme Lord. The money, the resources, the connection, the network, influence, fame, everything that arises from one's livelihood should be used for should help us direct our attention towards the ultimate purpose of life. That is what he is saying here. And then he says, therefore, practice sadhana bhakti, which is the ultimate and absolute good for people, because for it eventually leads to prema. As Mother Gail asked, that we cannot directly go to prema, but sadhana bhakti leads to prema bhakti. So that is why he is saying this practice of sadhana bhakti is the absolute and ultimate good for all people. And we will see what does he mean by, where does he refer to sadhana bhakti, because in the translations you don't hear that, like what you call, you don't hear sadhana bhakti in the translations of reading verses between 8 and 15. We will see them by scrutinizing the translations. So the conclusion is the only goal of Varnashram is again bhakti. If it is devoid of bhakti, then it's great for at least living in this world, having a good society, having a moral life, having a pious materialistic life, but it will not lead to liberation. Is this Sundar Gopal Prabhu raising his hand?
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, just one quick question.
Yes.
You said that all the sages there were not on the same level. Like some of them had questions even about Varnashram or maybe other things outside of bhakti. But do we know if at least all the sages at least were on the same level of saying Krishna is the supreme, or do you think there were even levels of, were there all just different opinion in terms of what process is the best process, or was there even some confusion of who is the supreme and who should we even be worshipping?
Yeah, perfect. Your question. Yes, there was difference in that also. That also Suta Goswami will take up when he is going to answer that Krishna as a supreme object. There he addresses all those details also. Like how is it, like what about Lord Shiva? What about Lord Brahma? What about the other demigods? He will say all that in this chapter again. We will see that when we get to the section between verses 23 and 27.
So that means not even in the audience, not everybody in that sense were devotees.
Yeah, so the idea is Shraddha Dana means, even you see the verse 16, Shushusho Shraddha Dana. Shraddha Dana means Prabhupada translates as someone who is like inquisitive and open-minded. So means Shraddha Dana we think is just having faith. But Shraddha Dana means at least the person is open to hearing a different opinion than what they have and open to explore it, have the liberal mind to think, I think like this, but this person is saying a different thing. Is there any truth in it? Can I explore this and find out? So that is real Shraddha also, because Shraddha means, does not mean I have complete faith in Krishna. I don't think even I practiced bhakti like that. Like I didn't completely understand who's Lord Chaitanya. I doubted if Prabhupada is just bringing out Bengali culture all over the world. I had my own doubts about science and how it related to devotion. I had so much doubts, but I continued to chant and I continued to explore. I read Prabhupada Lilamrita, I read about Lord Chaitanya, I read about various scientific stuff along with devotion, matched it. So I don't think it is, Shraddha means completely already sold out. And if you had any doubt, you are not qualified. No, that's not the idea of Shraddha. Do we have the open mind to actually explore and understand and try to see where is the other person's point of view coming from? Is there any truth in it? Where am I coming from? How much is it universal, like that?
Yeah, this is helpful because if we saw the first chapter, right, the sages asked what was the purpose of Krishna's right? So I assumed that everybody was already a devotee.
They were just curious. They were just curious. What is his purpose? If you think, if we keep hearing he is the Supreme Lord, so then what is the purpose? Like, why did he come? Who is he? That's also another side. There are all range of shades of is there within that questions.
No, but this is helpful. I assumed that everybody was already like, they had already accepted Krishna. Now they were just confused about process. But this is good to know that some were not even devotees.
Yeah. Like in the term, we would say, thank you. Who's the other person, Mother Shilpa?
Yes, Prabhu. So I'm just thinking out loud here, and it may not be the another reason why I think why he's bringing Varnashram Dharma in picture is also because probably he wants to also show that the process of bhakti is a little practical. So he's not asking that bhakti is equal to renunciation.
Yes.
He's highlighting that aspect that if you're doing what you're doing, you can continue with that. It's just that you have to align it with the ultimate purpose.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Perfect.
because
And
other,
here the essence is also the goal of Varnashram is bhakti. It's not that for bhakti you need to give up your livelihood or you have to give up family or anything like that. But change the goal of doing all of that into bhakti.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense. So he's assuming here that the rishis already understand about Varnashram and everything, like, or
Yeah, because his audience was highly literate in that sense in the Vedic scriptures. So yeah, it's assumed some amount of basic knowledge is assumed when you're teaching to an audience. But if it is not there, then it could be clarified. But for him, the sages does Varnashram Dharma is the Sanatana Dharma in one sense. On a practical level, that is what was how the society practiced Dharma. So there is no way that they don't know what is Varnashram Dharma. It's not the caste divisions that we see in India today.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Prabhu. Got it.
Okay. And Paresh Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
I'm just trying to understand the second point, right? If one's occupational duties does not lead to the attraction of hearing about the Lord. When we talk about Varnashrama, it's like Varna and Ashram, two different things that is being gelled in the Sanatana Dharma. So how one can do at any stage of his life, make sure he or she understands his life purpose during the different Varna he or she is in and which ashram they are in.
So just the perfect practice of Varnashram itself may not guarantee arising devotion in anyone's heart. Varnashram is not the cause of bhakti. However, if somebody is practicing like properly and if they had the grace of meeting devotees and then they continued their own actions in that proper mood, and gradually it can lead to the attraction for hearing. So basically, if they did not somehow or other come across and take up to devotional service, then life becomes not so fruitful because it's very hard work. We all know, probably you know better than me, like it's not very easy to keep up in this world. And after doing all of that, if somebody has not developed any kind of attraction for hearing about the Supreme Lord, so then so much hard work for what? But that does not mean just practicing Varnashram itself will lead to bhakti. They need to associate with devotees.
No, probably does that also means that if you're following your occupational duty as it is required to be in scriptures, you will ultimately develop that and you probably get that way to attach or inquire about the absolute truth?
There's no guarantee for that. Just by doing one's duty perfectly, there is no guarantee bhakti will arise in their heart. Bhakti usually arises from the association, or the only source actually is association, because bhakti cannot arise from just the perfect practice of Varnashram. That's what Bhagavatam clarifies when it speaks about the sages, the Yajnik Brahmins in 10th Canto, and their wives heard about Krishna from the buttermilk selling ladies from Mathura and Vrindavan. However, the Yajna Brahmanas, they were highly already, learned. They knew Vedas, they were doing sacrifices, but they never had association of devotees. So even when Krishna came to their doorstep, like the request from Krishna came to their doorstep, they missed the opportunity to serve. They were doing their work as a Brahmin, Yajnik Brahmins perfectly. Their Varnashram was going perfectly. But though the ladies were simple enough and they did not have the same level of knowledge and practice like them in their duties, still they were able to actually serve Krishna better. So the idea is that is why it's one's Varnashram, perfection in one's Varnashram without having attraction for Krishna amounts to a waste of time. So that whole pastime is to just explain this verse in one sense.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna. So we are going to just elaborate on these sections now. What is the time? It's already 10 o'clock. At least then I don't think we're going to complete this chapter today because we haven't even scratched the surface. Like we will just stop at the 15th verse. My idea is to finish the whole chapter in 1 week, but so that I can keep the interest of everyone. But if these are very elaborate topics and there are more questions, so then I'll go as much as time needed. So forgive me for that. So we're just going to see another couple of verses and end for today. And then the actual process of bhakti progression, we will see next week because it is a lot and it's one of the main important sections. So here in the 8th verse, it is being discussed like why is Varnashram Dharma not the Paro Dharma? Because in and itself, they cannot lead to detachment and knowledge without bhakti. And also, these occupational duties, they are all meant for gradual, what do you call, gradual detachment. Dharma leads to artha, artha is engaged in kama, and through all that satisfaction, then a person gradually moves towards liberation. But it's not that when dharma and artha and kama phase, they have no focus on moksha. No, life itself always centered around that focus and understanding. Eventually, I have to go to moksha. And engagement in dharma, engagement in artha, engagement in kama, all of that is done with that goal in mind. When it is done like that, then occupational duties, that is the purpose of occupational duties. It is not that dharma, ultimate aim is just to get artha, means money. Occupational duty work is not just for the sake of getting money, and money is not just for the sake of enjoying. And enjoying, eventually I'll enjoy so much, eventually sometime naturally mukti will, the desire for liberation will come. That's not how varnashram is set up. While engaging in dharma also, the person has a clear idea. Ultimate aim of this engagement is I have to go towards liberation. So whatever artha comes, I take it. I won't over endeavor, or I won't do immoral things or illegal things. And I won't engage this artha that has come, this money that has come, this profit that has come for just for sense gratification. I'll satisfy my needs. However, I'll also engage this in charity. I'll engage this in things that can lead me or help me in my progression towards liberation. So that's what chapter verse 9 is saying, that occupational duties are all meant ultimately for liberation. And that is why life's desire should never be directed towards just exclusive sense gratification. And then rather it should be turned, life's aim should be that inquiring about that absolute truth. Mother Gail?
Oh my God, all this time I thought that the karma part of this progression was sense gratification. Because if you don't engage in the sense gratification to your heart's desire, then I was thinking, how will you eventually become frustrated with it, seeing that it doesn't actually lead to happiness? So I thought that was the purpose, not just trying to keep my senses peaceful, but actually trying to enjoy, so that eventually I will see the futility of it and then desire for moksha.
That's called as the school of hard knocks. It might work, but it's not always going to be very pleasant.
So that's not the, how should I say, that's not the purpose of this art, the Dharma art.
Again, what we both are saying is this is a spectrum always in life. So you're saying the beginning end of the spectrum, and I'm speaking about the healthy end of the spectrum. So if people approached in this healthy way, it could be, that is how it should be approached with someone who has maturity. How do you get maturity? By making mistakes.
Hard knocks.
School of hard knocks.
Thank you.
Yeah. After explaining what is the purpose of Varnashram, how it should be practiced, he says the ultimate purpose of Varnashram is inquiring about the absolute truth. If you read the verse, that is, the word tattva will come. So the purpose of life is tattva jig, that inquiring about the absolute truth. Then that is why the very famous, the 11th verse, 1.2.11, which says tattva vidam brahmeti. So he's saying, then the natural question is, what is absolute truth? He's saying absolute truth manifest, that non-dual one absolute truth manifest in three ways: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And somebody may say, then what do I do if there are three? Like if there is one absolute truth, it's much easier. You're saying that it has three features. So then how do I engage with it? So then the next verse is the process of realizing that absolute truth, bhaktya shruta grihitaya, with devotion, hear about the Supreme. And that is the only purpose of the Varnashram. He says in the 13th verse, the purpose is actually to please the Lord Hari. So the best of the purpose, or the ultimate purpose of Varnashram, is to actually please the personality of God. Samsiddhir Hari Toshanam. So then the one may say, how to engage in that bhaktya shruta grihitaya. So then he says, this is where I said sadhana bhakti is the essence and ultimate good of all scriptures. In the 14th verse, you can say, how can you engage? How can you please that Hari? Shrotavya kirtitavyascha dheya pujyasta nityada. Means by four ways. By hearing about the Supreme Lord, by glorifying the Supreme Lord, by meditating on the Supreme Lord, or remembering Him, puja, worshipping the Supreme Lord. So with one pointed attention, that Bhagavan Satvatampati. I said Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. However, Bhakti, here he is saying Bhagavan Satvatampati. To that Supreme Lord, what do? You engage in Shrotavya, hear about that Lord, speak about that Lord, glorify that Lord, remember that Lord, and worship that Lord always. Cha Nityada. So this is how Nityada could be means always, means at all times, or Nityada could mean regulated. So when you take the meaning regulated, this verse refers to sadhana bhakti, that every day I will chant, every day I'll take darshan, every day I'll do some puja. So that everyday part, nityada, is called as sadhana. So that is why he's saying the purpose of varnashram is eventually actually inquire about absolute truth. How do you inquire about absolute truth? That you actually, through sadhana bhakti, you develop your inquiry about the absolute truth, because otherwise how do you even worry about absolute truth? So that is what is sadhana bhakti. Gradually we may have very little worry about the absolute truth or interest in absolute truth, but associating with devotees, by engaging in sadhana bhakti, gradually our inquiry about the absolute truth becomes stronger and stronger. Out of the three features of the absolute truth, Bhagavan is focused here in the 14th verse. So that is why sadhana bhakti is the ultimate good for humanity, is the essence of all scriptures in one sense also, because this will eventually lead to perfected level of bhakti, prema bhakti, that how a unripe mango eventually leads to a ripe mango. It's all same, it's not a different object. So bhakti in its beginning stages is sadhana, becomes prema at the end. So it's like how a unripe mango is the cause of the ripe mango. So bhakti is the cause of bhakti, sadhana bhakti is the cause of. And in the verse 15 he's saying what is the qualification for hearing for such bhakti in is literally like faith in the Lord's message. Yad anudyasina yukta karma granthi nibandhanam chindanti kovidastasya kona kuryat katarate mare. Who will not hear, who will not have taste? If this particular process can lead to perfection of life, why would person not be eager to hear? So that's what all our problem is, that we don't have taste for hearing about Supreme Lord. That's what Suta Goswami is saying, and which will be described from the verse 16 onwards, how we can actually awaken that. How can we awaken interest in hearing about the Supreme Lord? That's what is the subject matter. And that hearing, what does that hearing lead us to? How does it actually start the process of bhakti? We will see from verses 16 onwards. Olga?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Is there a specific verse between 12 and 15 that mentions sadhana bhakti, or was that just like you explaining the process?
Text 14.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So if you see the text 14, it is called Tasmad Ekena Manasa Bhagavan Satvatam Pati Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Deya Pujaschya Nityada. So he's saying Nityada means regulated. You may sometimes Nitya means always, but Nitya also means regulation. So Nityada, when regulatedly, when you Shrotavya, hear about the Lord, glorify the Lord, meditate on the Lord, and worship the Lord. So that's what that is.
Thank you.
So now, if this is the purpose of life, then why am I not having attachment to hearing about the Supreme Lord? So that is our problem, which will be answered in the following verses in the coming week. So I would like to stop here. If there are no more questions, we will continue the following week. Hope that works. Hare Krishna. Krishna, thank you everyone.